get it. I'm trying to put money in your pocket, that crypto wallet, that bing bada bing ching ching big profit. Even when the market's sideways, I'm looking for ways to get paid. I'm checking my coins around breakfast, then again around bedtime. Bet this, it's not financial advice, but I'm always right. 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 I'm always right.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not praise him. Famous words of Mark Antony, allegedly. So, what does that tell us about cryptocurrency? Nothing. I just wanted to say it just so you can say, like, why does this guy know stupid stuff? I don't know. Because I had useless books when I was growing up that taught me a whole bunch of useless stuff that I'll never use in my life. So what I do know is what's going on in the crypto market. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about setup positions, and all of this is going to be brought to you courtesy of your friends and my friends at Margex. Folks, if you haven't already, sign up at a centralized exchange. Margex is your one. It helps me out tremendously, by the way, if you sign up at the link in the description down below for all of your trading needs. Not only that, I have worked with them. They are going to set me up a copy trading account. So you can follow me for copy trades coming up very, very shortly. So let's get on with this one. Let's talk about where the market is. Let's talk about what's going on with it. And let's see what it is that we can do. Let's go first. Go check it. We're just going to go check the market. We're going to see what's going on. We're going to set some buys, maybe set some sells. I don't know. We're going to do something crazy here. Who knows? Now, let's start with number one. What is number one? Number one is, I told you so. And I didn't mean to tell you so. I actually wanted to see a little bit more downward momentum. But guess what? We're going to get probably the dip that I was telling you that was coming. It seems like it's going to happen. Now, rewind back to our first episode. What I told you was that it would be good to have a buy set up at around 108 at the bottom of this range here at 107,500. But I was hoping for a dip down into this 105,700 range because I thought that was going to represent a pretty good level of support and give me a nice little bounce. But I said that if you decide to enter into this position, set yourself a sell order at the top of this box. And guess what happened? Like clockwork, 112,000 is exactly where we hit. So if you scalp this trade, congratulations, you made yourself a bag. Now, you can also see that we had a bit of a sell down today. It's been dramatic, but it didn't stay and it didn't maintain. There seems to be a lot of positivity in the market, like maybe, I don't know, we got another level coming. Now, let's step back and let's look at what we're doing. Well, right now, what we've got is this little trend line forming to the downside. Now, what does that mean to you and me? Well, it means to you and me that most likely we've got some downward momentum down to the bottom of this channel. Now, we're making a guess about this little dip right here, matching up in this little range right here. We can make an argument right here that we got right where we were looking to go. All right, we can make an argument as we look at this because we're looking at a daily chart and we don't get we're not getting all of the data points to make that thesis play out. I could probably look at a longer period of time, or 30 minutes. We look at 30 minutes, or we can look at 1 hour, maybe get a little bit of a different coat, if you will, on it over different time frames. But generally speaking, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Now, what that means to me is I would think that we're going to see this happen right here. We're going to see a dip down into this 105, 106 sort of range. We're going to pull up, by the way, now that we're talking about it. I know that we don't really point it out all of the time, but we're going to go over to the heat map today, and we're going to go check it out. We're going to look at the liquidation heat map just to give us an idea. Is 105.6 looking like one of those areas? If we look at it on the slow time frames, the 24-hour, then we're feeling pretty good about our position right now. Seems like we've got some liquidity available down in that 108 range. But what I want to do is I want to zoom out to 2 weeks. Let's start at 2 weeks. And let's see if anything pops up out there that gives me a nice little feeling right here. Well, the start of that comes down to 107. And if you sweep all the way down here, 105, by the way, zoom in close because there it is right there. The bottom of your range, the bottom of the liquidity sweep that we could or should have here, the bottom of that is exactly where I told you guys a couple days ago we most likely are going to visit. 105,674. Like, and we called it within the dollar, right? So I would expect to see a wicked candle coming up, something like this over here. One of those big scam wicks that just liquidates people. Now, before that can happen, we need to see a breakdown into that 108 and sub 108 range. And I can't verify that we're going to get there. I can't say that we are or are not going to get there. What I would like to point out right now is the market, despite the fact that the U.S. market, Dow Jones up 350 points today, did not do very well in crypto. A lot of sell-off happening, a lot of negativity in that market for a day when the Dow Jones is pumping. And we should probably, in our liquidity rotations, be looking at something a little bit different. And that thing that we should be looking at to add in is probably gold. And then we should probably look at stocks. And we should probably look at the stock market, the Dow Jones, NASDAQ, stuff like that. But we're going to stay away from that for the moment. Just, I think that liquidity rotation being what it is. And by the way, there's a real possibility we end up in a positive day. And this is crazy. We are about 1 hour from candle close for the daily, and we're down 28 billion. But if we go back over here and we look at what's been happening on the hourly, look at what's happening hourly. We've gained back. We had a nice dip today. Okay. Should be fair to say that we dipped down to 3.73 trillion. We're at 3.78 trillion right now, which means we clawed back $50 billion in downward momentum in the market today. Thus, we could be looking at a reversal. Now, when we zoom in here and check this out, we see that we broke out above. We didn't get enough to confirm. As a matter of fact, let's go look at the 4 hour. Generally, what we want to see is we want to see 2 full candles above, and then we don't want to see it go back below. So what we got is 1, 2, which we're feeling good about. But then we started to see this downward momentum right here, and then that became gut check time. When we got to the third candle cleared, and then we dipped right back into the range, went through the range, and then dipped back down. Now we're pumping back up to the top of that. And by the way, as well as I do, my number is not going to be exactly, we're going to have to play with this just a little bit to massage it, if you will, and get it to exactly where it should be, right about there when we're looking at it on the 4 hour. So what to make of that? Well, that to me looks like there's going to be a rejection from that range right there. Again, we're using the 4 hour, but I would be surprised to see it break above. Now, I wouldn't be surprised long-term to see it break above, but in the short term, it feels like this market is in need of correction. By the way, we are above on the RSI on the total. We're above 50, which means we do have momentum swinging our way. We are bullish again, but I don't feel it yet in the market. I'm not feeling that sentiment at this point. And by the way, the only sentiment that matters is Bitcoin. So we're looking at this from a Bitcoin lens. So getting back over to Bitcoin, same thing, just really kind of came to the top of the range. And now the question is, are we going to break out tonight, or are we going to break down a little bit further? Well, here's the thing. Most of the time, when you see stuff like this, the market's just being manipulated. It's being manipulated by people who are playing a game. And in that game that they're playing, by the way, this is going to be a short stream tonight. So I'm going to get through this in just 1 second here. And we're going to talk about just a few of these projects, and then we're going to move on. Also, I launched a bunch of videos today. Because I launched all the videos today, you are not being notified that this is happening. So my apologies to you for the lack of notification or anything like that. YouTube only gives you 3 notifications for the day. So I use mine at my 9 a.m. live stream. I use it at my 1 p.m. Terra Luna Classic. And then at 4:30, I launched a new video, King of Apes. If you haven't watched that one, certainly go check it out. King of Apes, by the way, they are like a pump fund. They just launched a meme coin that went to $9 million market cap, which was something like a 200x. And they're going to launch their own coin pretty soon, token, I should say. So if you haven't already, you might want to go check that out. There's a possibility that it could be a runner. Remember Uniswap, remember Pump Fund, remember Bonk Fund, all of those that are tokenizing are having nice little runs, and they're going to $1 billion market cap. So King of Apes, with the idea that it's going to be a platform where you can ape into a crypto, sounds like a possible winner to me. I don't know what you think. If you like it, check it out. If you don't. All right, so we're down 28 billion. Again, we got about an hour left in this market before we reset. Possibility of $28 billion coming in is very low, but the way crypto runs, it's possible. China's waking up right now. Australia's already woken up. Japan's already woken up. We're already ready to go. Around 6:30 is the time that you really start to see the Chinese market open up and start to make buys. So, we could be looking at the dawn of a big move. I mean, I'm not saying that it won't happen. We're down 27 billion right now, 26 billion right now. So, God damn it. I don't want to be wrong about this. I don't want to see that negative. I don't want to see that negative day turn positive all of a sudden at the very end after I'm trying to tell you guys I think the price is coming down. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, son of a bitch. And then the next thing you know, we drop $100 billion and we're back down to 3.51 trillion. I'm sorry. Which was, by the way, this is my number down here, 3.51 trillion, which is, I think, where we're going in overall market cap. And that's going to take a real sell-off to make that happen. But if it pumps, it pumps. Now, what I think is going to happen, if you've already made your money on this and you got that reversal right here because you didn't sell, now would be the time to sell. I'm not saying I'm going to be right. I'm saying that the logic dictates that the most likely scenario of this trend right here, you never know when it's going to break out. I'll tell you that. You never know when it's going to break out. But the trend right here really doesn't look like we've come down enough. Now, by the way, come over here and we look we've broken down above. Like if we're having just a normal sort of correction, then, we bounced off of this little range right here when we got this wick right here, and then it ran really hard. Then we came down to this range right here. And guess what? Instead of bouncing off of it, which we did right there, which we did right here, we bounced a little bit higher for that second, and then we broke down. Once we broke down, that meant the momentum had stopped. And now here we are sitting at this sort of range right here, which is just a mess. So what you're looking for is you're looking for a bottom or a top somewhere that could validate that next move. You could argue that it's right here at 108. You can argue that it's in this little box, which is why we created the box, by the way, that's why we created this box, saying that that's probably going to be the range that we're going to be in. But logic dictates that we are coming down to one of these little ranges down here. Again, it may not happen and it may go worse, but I'm going to set, and I'm going to leave, actually I've already set, but I'm going to leave a buy order at 105,700, looking for the market to do this right here, looking for a move right into this range right here. Might even get one of those big wicks down there like that. And then I'm going to look for an immediate and aggressive move that breaks out above, and then we start a real big rally. Okay. Now, why do I say that? Well, that's what happens every time. That's what keeps happening right now. Look, we had this downward momentum right here, right? We finally found that bottom. We got that big bottom right there. And then boom, broke above, broke above, broke above. So I think that the same thing is about to happen. So set your buys at 105.7. If you're doing that, of course, if you're doing that, use Margex. 105.7 is where your buy order should be. Also on XRP, we're looking at, we're not feeling as bullish. Like I'm not feeling as bullish on XRP as I would like to right now, not because there's something wrong with XRP, but because the market just doesn't seem ready to price in that exponential pump until Bitcoin breaks out. So what I'm looking for as well with that breakdown, I'm looking for 270 right here. Now, let's go back over here and say, just to give you guys some real clarity on this, right? This range right here, I might have it tight. $2.48 seems to be another, strong area where we're going to see a bounce. And by the way, when I say this, let me put this up as a rectangle so you guys can see it right there. That's kind of a range where I would suspect we're going into and that we're going to bounce off of. Now, in the event that we don't get a strong bounce from this range, that doesn't happen right here. Then what we're looking at is we're looking at that top right there, which twice acted as resistance to become our support line, which means that we could break down into this 248 range. By the way, if this happens, that is a gift. To be fair, I'm not talking about shorting right now. We're in a bull market, and for me, any kind of short would be a scalp. So I don't feel like short. I think you're more likely, and I don't think that you will, but you're more likely to get wrecked by shorting this market right now than you are to get rewarded by just giving it a few moments and going long. Again, we were at 26 billion. Now we're at 31 billion. So, the market's just continuing this PVP zone that we're in right now. But if I'm going to short, then there's no better place than the top of the box. The top of the range is where you're going to short it to begin with. So if you want to enter a short in that spot right there, I think that this makes perfect sense. But again, I'm here for long positions. I'm setting buy orders for longs. By the way, I just want you guys to know the reason that I'm not shorting this market is because I've shorted this market 3 or 4 times with big money plays of over $5,000 to $15,000, and I've gotten completely wrecked every single time and only been able to withdraw a few bucks at the end of it and had to start over a couple times. I did not set stop losses. I went to sleep on some of those, and it just didn't work out. So I'm gonna leave shorting in this market out of my equations for right now. So when I start to see, by the way, the reason that I'm not is because, look, I think that we are just going to get destroyed, okay, if you short the market. There are 0 bull market peak indicators that are popping right now. So anything that we do, I don't have confidence in on downward momentum. I just think this market could reverse at any moment for any reason and go absolutely nanners. So I'm going to set a buy right here. I'm going to set at the bottom of this range right here at $2.65. I got another one set up at 270, and then I'm going to set one to save me. I'm not going to set a stop loss. I'm going to set one to save me at 248 down here just in case, because that's going to be a massive buy. And then I think that massive buy right there, in the event that this triggers, leads to a giant reversal, and that's where we start talking about that breakout moment. But that breakout moment is going to start with Bitcoin before Ethereum or XRP start to run. So this is just what I'm predicting for right now. As far as Ethereum goes, I'm more confident if you wanted to short Ethereum. However, I still think that Ethereum ETF, remember today, Grayscale announced that they've created an Ethereum product, an ETF product, where you get rewarded with fees that they charge every single day. So it's not the same as staking, because you can get 3% if you stake. So it's not the same as staking, but it's a reward of some sort that you can get right now from the Ethereum ETF. So that's better than nothing. But let's look at the chart. And what does the chart tell us right now? Really, it tells us that we are in this downward trend, same as the rest of the market. Look at this. Matter of fact, it's kind of, I guess it's not playing out as perfect as I was going to say. From here to here, we're tightening up real quick. We're getting into that. This to me looks like another leg up. This to me, by the way, when you go out and you start to analyze this, what you're seeing is you're seeing lower highs, but you're seeing a floor that you're bouncing off of. Now, if that excites you because you're like, well, we're bouncing off of the floor, eventually that floor breaks because the people that are holding the floor will get tired and they will start to break. So the most likely scenario, I think the number was 70%. 70% of the time when you're in that channel, you're gonna break to the downside. Okay. So that's why we have this box down here saying that I think that we probably get into that range for that bounce. So that's what I'm looking at to happen right there. All right. I'm looking to see, this market is not made for us yet. This market is made for institutions to PvP each other and steal each other's money and fight and fight and fight. And we just need to find a way to make money off of it. So I set a buy at 4,000 on Ethereum. I don't know that it's going to get triggered. I could be completely wrong about this. The hard part with Ethereum right now is that people want to fade it very quickly, but it's been very, very strong. I mean, look at that breakout that you just had not that long ago. I mean, not only this year, and I'm talking April, not only did it go down to 1,400 in April, look at how it broke out. Look at the gains that you've had in that short period of time. When something like that happens, Ethereum tends to correct to the downside. So Ethereum, incredibly volatile. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, I would be looking for this move down here. So again, same thing. I don't want to short the market, but if you're shorting, this would be a bad entry position if you were shorting, because it did not go up to the top of this range right here. And I think that range makes a lot of sense where we are right now. If I'm going to short, I'm going to short from here at 44 or 4,500, as opposed to right here where I'm in the center. Because when you're in the center of this range, it can go either way. I mean, you can see it not go back up to the top, and then you can see it just kind of meander right here before you get this dagger. But then you could also be sitting in this range and boom, it breaks to the upside. So I'm not comfortable taking a position in the middle of any kind of range. So I'm going to look for it to break down. I'm going to look for an entry position at 4,000. I'm going to use low leverage again because it could still break down a little bit further, and then we'll see what happens. Solana. Again, same as Ethereum. Now, look, I feel a little more confident in Solana the way that it seems to be. Like it, like that's a really bullish looking chart right now. This is a chart that looks like it wants to break, right? It wants to break upwards. I mean, look at this. Is if you start back here, again, going back to April, if you look right here, it really looks like it's been on an aggressive uptrend. And, this probably doesn't make it all the way down there, but, there's enough positivity in that. That's an aggressive move that we're witnessing right now with Solana. So, a breakdown to 186, another one to protect it at 170. We're going to stick with that. That's what I think is going to happen right there. OM, we're looking at on the 4 hour. You can see what's going on right there. This is still at the bottom. I'm not seeing, look, I thought by this point, I did think by this point we would see some kind of positive sort of bounce off of OM. Now, the market has not been kind, but it's shedding new investors. We got back into this range, this right here. Okay. We got back into this range with this spike up to 40 cents. When we got back into that range, then the end result of that was a dump back down to almost where we started. If I were talking to you about this in one of my live streams, I would tell you that the existing investors in the project ran this up in order to get your liquidity so that you would get a FOMO buy. Nobody bought FOMO, so it dumped back down to where it was before. That's what I would tell you if we were having a normal conversation about what's going on with OM. And I don't like that, but I don't really see, again, I just don't see the strength out of it. Now, here's the other part to that, just so you guys understand, because it sounds like I'm bearish on OM. I am not, but the market has to, the market has to dictate what's going on, okay? My opinion right now is that we're super bullish long term, but the market is still addressing that collapse. Okay. The market is still dealing with the after effects of this radical sort of collapse. Okay. So at best at this point, this range right here, right there, that's the best I can see in the short term. It's a nice little 4X from where you are, but that's the best that I could see happening if it goes crazy. Like if it went crazy and people decided, hey, you know what, OM mantra, this is the one. It's time to get back in. It's time to secure positions. I think it's going to reject right there. I think it's going to reject right there because, you come back over here and you start looking at it on the daily, and guess what? This right here, there's so much trade volume right here. You're going to have sellers coming through, and then right here, you have more sellers coming through. In the event that you can push through this sell pressure, which will be enormous, this is going to make it, this is one right after the other. Just so you guys, this is two little areas close back to back that just seem insurmountable for the moment. So, you know what I mean? Screech says, that's the most dead chart I've ever seen today. I mean, it's true. And here's the funny thing, Screech, when you look at the reason that it collapsed is not because of the project. The reason that it collapsed is because one big time major investor put their money on Aave and borrowed $36 million out of OM to go long on Bitcoin and got liquidated on a dump like that. It was crazy. That person lost $36 million in a moment. So then, of course, Aave did what Aave does, and they liquidated the position right here. And that caused the start of this right here. And the next thing you know, the people that are in this position right here said, oh my God, it's collapsing like Terra Luna. I better get the fuck out. And then boom, the rest is history. So now the question is, will it recover? And I think the answer to that is yes, it will recover. But when you lose a single, just imagine this. It doesn't matter how much you're trading. And by the way, when you go look at OM right now, it has a $213 million market cap. It's got $40 million worth of trade volume. This is not a tiny project. This is an enormous project. And by the way, if we go to market cap over here and we zoom out to the 1 year market cap, this thing was running over $8 billion. And the problem with it was one investor. One investor just got destroyed. And when he got destroyed, he scared everybody else. And that's no fundamental problem with the project. The project was probably overpriced. The project was probably getting a really good pump altcoin season. We had that little altcoin season back in, September, October, November, December, that happened. And then boom, we start to get that big run. You start to get that big move. You're feeling really good. You get that sideways action. You get that consolidation in range. You're feeling it. You don't dip back down. You know it's coming. And then you have that next breakout, and that next breakout takes you up to an $8 billion market cap. Then you consolidate. Guys, let me tell you something. In the event that this were to happen again, and that guy did not get liquidated, if that guy did not get liquidated, we would be talking about a $20 billion mantra probably right now. Maybe, you know what? Maybe it would be 8 billion right now, but it would have surged again. We would have had another surge. It would have gone up even higher. So now people are changing their bets because that scared them. And the question at this point is the distribution of wallets enough to entice new investors to come back? Now, analysts that are looking at it say that the answer to that is yes, that the distribution is a lot better than it was when this one guy was right there. But I don't know yet. I don't know that. You know what I mean? Screech says that the fear and greed index on that is high. Let's see. You know what? I had it on here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's still in sell. It's still in sell mode. So, it was a strong sell. I can tell you that. At one point, it was a strong sell for a long time. Oscillators, here you go. Oscillators are telling you it's in buy zone right now. It's telling you that you should be buying. Moving average are telling you that it is a strong sell at this point. And the summary right now is still giving you that kind of sell position. But the oscillators right now are telling you it's a good time to buy. So will it actually be a good time to buy is certainly going to be the question. Let's leave that right there. I don't know why that shit just happened. Anyway, back to it. The RSI over here, we're still kind of weak. We're down here, but guess what? That's when the big moves happen. When you get this dip and this, you got this big rip over here. You got that retest right there at about 40 cents. And you didn't get any bearish divergence. You didn't get anything that makes you look like somebody's trying to, Oh, by the way, Screech, this is for me. OM is for me. I'm not telling you guys to buy. All right. But I have multiple exchanges, not just Margex, which is the sponsor of this stream. Make sure you sign up in the description down below. But I use Weeks. I use KCEX. I use a lot of non-KYCs. And guess what? Every day when I get my commissions, I just buy more OM or I buy more API 3. I just bought a bunch of API 3 at $1 yesterday. So I'm not telling you guys to buy it. I'm telling you that I'm buying as much as I can. And I don't believe that it's going to go back to $10. I'm not even bullish on it going to $10 again, ever. But I do think that $4 range right there looks really, really enticing. And I think that $4 is probably going to be programmed in. Like, I think that, if we get into the bull market, $4 is going to be the top of the range right there. And that's about a 20x. A 20x from where it is right now is about half of the market cap that it had in the last little bullish cycle for this project. So when the money flows, and by the way, don't forget, the reason that people are not moving on this right now is because the money flow has been out for a while on most mid-cap meme coins, mid-caps, all of that. If I look at, I'll put it this way. Let's go look at this right here. We see the peak here is going to be in February, okay? Ethereum in February was right about here. So we're at 2,800. We're having a nice little rally on Ethereum. We're having a nice little rally. There's February right there on Solana. Now, we're not up huge, but we've had a nice little rally above that. But when I start to get down here past Crow, look at Fetch. Fetch looks like a rug pull at this point. And Fetch, one of the better projects out there for AI. HBAR. We had HBAR get a nice little spike back here in November all the way through February. And guess what? No progress on HBAR since February. Aave, we know that Aave is a good one, but it's really kind of sideways action since this is February right here. Since February, there's not really been, and as you go down and you start looking at them, again, there's February right in this little range right here. We're down from Cardano. You know what I mean? Like, there are all of these that just don't make any fucking sense. And by the way, if you didn't see, Hedera had a gigantic announcement today. What was this big announcement? Wyoming's Frontier Stable Token, FRNT. This is going to be Wyoming's stable coin. It's going to be on Hedera. It's going to be on the HBAR chain. That is an incredibly bullish scenario. That's an incredibly bullish scenario. But look what happened on the day. Nobody gave a shit about that. It actually dumped into that sort of news. That's crazy. That's insane. But that's a testament to the problems in this market right now that, we are PvPing and scalping one another and just killing each other. Like we're in Wyoming and we're chasing down the noble savages, I think we called them back in the old days. I'm not really sure we can say that these days, I mean, we call the girls Navajos. I don't think we can do that either. Anyway, But again, look, me right here, I thought, and I still think that H-bar is going to go absolutely nanners. And that it's looking at, to me, $1.14 is probably bearish at this point. But when I zoom out on the daily and I go look at the top of the previous market, I go look where it was at 57 cents. It's a pretty nice move. But if I look at it from this standpoint, and what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that golden ratio from that top right there, which is right about there. I look at that, and then, let's go from the pivot down here at the bottom. I might need to increase my estimate here. Yeah, I think I need to increase my estimate right here for H-bar. Let's move that up there to $1.50-ish. Yeah, so I think $1.50 is what's in the cards for H-bar, because the pivot from the low of the bear market to the high of the last bull market tells me where it should go. Now, the most common ratio that gets hit on cryptos that pump is 127.2, which is why I put it in there and why it's grayed out, but it's in there. So 126, somewhere between 126 and 150 is where I think this thing ends up in that long run. So color me bullish to right there. So that's where I think we're headed, right? I think that's where it's going to be. Now, by the way, you might be asking yourself, like, well, why are you, you think that OM is going to go up 20x. You think that DevE is going to go over 100x. Why do you think that, but you don't think the same thing with Hedera? And it really comes down to this. Hedera already has a $9 billion market cap. The amount of money has already been made. Okay? It's already been made. Now, yeah, the golden ratio is tough to hit, but guess what? The biggest cryptos tend to do that in the most bullish of runs. And I think we're about to go into a generational altcoin season. This is going to be the biggest altcoin season that we've ever seen in terms of capital. And I think that capital will end up right over here. And don't forget, over 1 year, up 333%. So we started a year ago at a 3 billion market cap. We're at a $9 billion market cap right now. So it's not like this is not a successful project being successful and doing quote unquote successful things. It's not like it. It's just that I'm at the top of my range here. Like, why am I going to throw money at something that's at the top of my range? Even if I look out and I zoom out right now and I say, you know what, it's going to be tough to get there, but I think that that's what's on tap. I think there's a lot more projects out there that are going to go a lot harder and a lot higher than what I'm seeing right here. That's the only thing. So I'm not saying that I'm not even bearish. There are more bullish projects out there. And I think, to be fair, like full disclosure, I have like 1,000 H-bar. Like, I'm not a big holder. I'm a miner. I am such a miner over here. Donald Trump will date me in 3 years. You know what I mean? I just am not a big holder of H-bar. I'm not a big holder of Crow. I have 1,000 Crow as well. Just not a big fan of some of these. So, and again, look, if I had $20 million, Screech says Crow is BS. So I'm going to disagree, because I like the Kronos chain and everything being built on Atom. I'm a pretty big fan of, because I think it's a very fast and a great system. I think that it is my opinion that Kronos has been very deceptive in the way that they've done business, by the fact that crypto.com for a long time, it was the crypto.com. We just considered Crow to be crypto.com, and they went actively distancing themselves from Kronos over the last 6 months, which I don't like, because then when something good happens to crypto.com, what are we going to pump with? You know what I mean? Like, I don't like There's something off about the way they're doing business, in my opinion. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but and look, everybody made a bunch of money already. People like Pablo Crow, people like that, they've already made millions off of crypto.com. So, how much higher is it going to go? Well, I would be surprised if it goes up to the top of its range again. I would be surprised if it goes to $1 at this point. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't buy a bunch at 7 or 8 cents. Actually, it was 8 cents I got it at. So at 8 cents, it was $80. Now it's worth what, $260. You know what I mean? So even if it's a small bag or something like that, it's a win. I'll take the win. You know what I mean? If I see a crazy dip for any reason on Crow over the next little while, in the event that I see it starts to, if I start to feel soft, right, I will exit that position at around 20 cents and I will set a long down here at like 9 or 8 cents, probably 8 cents. I will set myself a 5x or a 10x long at 8 cents just to see what happens. You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be huge with it being named the arena, etc. Yes, that's actually true. I mean, look, it's crypto.com. If you're into cryptocurrency and you want to learn about cryptocurrency, crypto.com makes perfect sense. It's primed to be the big thing in the United States and in the world. The problem with this is they backed out. I'm not going to call them cowards, okay? But they didn't want to do what was necessary to be regulated in the United States. Coinbase fought the good fight. I think Coinbase is a goddamn scam, okay? I don't respect Brian Armstrong. They are shady as fuck, okay? To me. They have their reasons. I disagree with their reasoning because I understand it. But the fact that they don't support USDC on Solana, and I sent several $1,000s worth of USDC on Solana, and these motherfuckers kept my money and won't refund me. Fuck that scam piece of shit organization. By the way, if you are wondering about that, go look up USDC Solana. Go look at your Coinbase addresses. Go find hot wallets that say Coinbase in the Solana ecosystem. Go find the Solana wallets and go look how much money there is in USDC sitting dead unaccounted for in Coinbase right now. You are going to be, if you're not furious when you see the numbers, you're not thinking clearly. Okay. And by the way, it's my fault for trusting Coinbase because guess what? If you want to send your money, if you want to send Solana to Coinbase, you can do it. They support the chain. If you want to use USDT, they make it difficult for you to do that. Why? Because they're the majority investor in Circle. Circle is the printer of USDC. Why is USDC not serviced by Coinbase on Solana? That is bullshit. They know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. Okay? So those are your options. By the way, they're cheaper than Kraken. Kraken is the only other major player. Now, you guys might say, well, yeah, but what about Gemini? What the fuck? First of all, I don't have an extra chromosome. I'm not retarded, okay? I'm not going to use Gemini. The Winklevoss twins? Are you kidding me? Really? Robinhood? Look, Robinhood, are you being serious right now? Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. Robinhood stopped trading when it's convenient because who is their clearinghouse? Citadel Securities. Who is Citadel? The biggest scam artist on the planet. I mean, I'm going to have a stroke just explaining this shit to you guys today. Oh my God. Anyway, I get nervous with a lot of these. Let's talk about let's talk about Devi real quick. Again, Devi is at the bottom of the range. Their partnership with, I think with NASDAQ is going to be a lot closer, is a lot closer to being announced than even I or anybody else thinks. In the meantime, if we're starting right here, maybe it goes to $10 if they make that announcement. If it comes to the top of this range and we get some positive motivation, if we get it if it happens at the right time, $50, the end. And by the way, I went to Grok and I asked Grok if Devi is partnered with NASDAQ. I want you to look at the technicals. I want you to look at the fundamentals. I want you to look at Devi. Then I want you to look at DevX as a blockchain. Then I want you to look at DevStream, which is the parent company, which is listed on NASDAQ, I might add. I want you to look at all of those details. And then I want you to look at how much the value is of a partnership where the exchange of record for NASDAQ, for people who are buying from NASDAQ, tokenized stocks, tokenized assets, tokenized cryptos, the Dev exchange, if that's what it is, what is the value? And Grok said between $25 and $70. So I'm comfortable with my $50 prediction for Dev E going into this market. So now it's just a matter of timing and seeing it actually happen, seeing the absolute breakout. Now, I'm going to change that estimate pretty soon, probably to less than $50. Because, and the reason that I'm going to do that is because one of the things that I liked about Devi, or that I like about Devi, is that it was so far, it was unique. Okay. Instantaneous settlements. You can reverse a transaction because you're using a clearinghouse that would, a lender, which is Bank Delobach, which would allow you to, the way that it works, it's too goddamn complicated for me to explain to you. But if you go read the technical details on Devi, you'll understand. Instantaneous settlement. And if somebody steals from you, then that crypto is locked as an asset until you confirm it. If you have a Genesis NFT, I think that helps you do that. Somehow, again, there's a lot that there's a institution is going to love the Dev exchange. They're going to lose their minds over it because it does what they've always needed. Here's the problem. Problem is Ondo just launched tokenized stocks on Ethereum. I mean, to me, that's game over. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's what you've been waiting for. So, I mean, what the fuck are we going to do now? You know what I mean? So $50, maybe 40 at this point. And by the way, the longer this takes, the worse it's going to get from that context. Now, here's what I like. What I like so far is the structure of the chart that is, as it's playing out right now, is we're at higher lows, I think. Also, the highs are getting just a little bit higher each time. So when this flow goes back to another high, I think 80 cents is going to be the number right there. That was the top of this little range right here. So 80 cents, I think, is going to be the next move. I told you guys 75, but as I started to look at it, I think it's closer to 80 cents. But, I think that Devi has this nice little move right there. That doesn't do much for my bag, by the way. I mean, at 43 cents, if it doubles, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for double. I'm looking for generational. So I'm not really worried, not to disrespect your bag if you're a Devi holder, but I'm not really worried about what the price is right now. In fact, if it comes back down, if some seller decides that he's going to dump hard and it comes back down into this range, note to every single other project I've ever received tokens from. Okay. I am dumping them all and I'm going all in on Devi at 25 cents, just to let you know. Okay. If I get that opportunity right there, it is over. Okay. I will sell everything and just buy Devi. Well, you know what? I'm going to sell everything but Bitcoin. And I will buy Devi. I will sell my ETH. I will sell my Solana. I will sell everything and go 100% into Devi, or 80%, let's just say 80% into Devi from that moment. And by the way, I'm not 50% Bitcoin. I'm only 20% Bitcoin. And the reason for that is very, very simple. I'm not going to get rich off Bitcoin except buying on the Fear and Greed Index, 30 to 70, which we've already talked about. If you did that since the Fear and Greed Index came out, if you bought every time Bitcoin dipped to 30 and you sold every time it ran up to 70, if you started with one Bitcoin which was $3,500 when the Fear and Greed Index launched, and the first time it hit 30, it was at $3,500. If you bought one Bitcoin at $3,500 and you folded the profits over every single time into buying and selling at 30 to 70, you would have $7.2 million right now. Okay. So there is money to be made on Bitcoin, but I'm not right there right now. Okay. So 20% Bitcoin, 80% risk asset, bigger risk asset than Bitcoin. So that's my strategy for the moment. When I'm over $5 million and I can throw $3 to $4 million into Coinbase and let it earn 4.5% yield, that's 180 grand on 4 million bucks, and 180 grand would pay for, I wouldn't live a great life, but I'd be okay. You know what I mean? So why not? You know what I mean? And I would hold that shit for at least a year. So the capital gains on is only 10%. I don't want to pay them 35% or whatever it is from the American. Fuck that. You know what I mean? So it'd be long term. By the way, we're down $52 billion in the market. It looks like I'm going to end up being right because the Asian market has woken up and they are dumping Bitcoin as well. So, ta-da. It's going to be your lucky day. Anyway, all of this is possible because of my partner at Margex. So if you haven't already, sign up at the description down below, and that's it. That's going to be the show right now. Look at this. I'm on the 5-minute chart, by the way. On the 5-minute chart right here, look at this shit. It is just absolutely dumping at 112, which means, by the way, that we absolutely nailed this box. Boy, that sounds, absolutely nailing this box. That kind of sounds, Is that misogynistic? Did I do that wrong? I shouldn't do that. Okay, whatever. All right, so we're going to fold over. We're going to have a negative day. We're not going to buy back 50 billion over the course of the next half hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever time. 16 minutes left. So in 16 minutes, we're not going to have $50 billion flood the market. We're going to renew. We're going to be on a big red candle, but we're going to be, this is a pretty attractive candle, to be fair. Like when you have a long candle with these big wicks right here, but you're settling towards the top side of it, that tends to mean you got upward momentum. When you settled here yesterday, towards the bottom, where you had a bigger top here than you had on the bottom right there, that's a bearish candle. And guess what? We were rewarded for that bearish candle with a bear candle for the day. So there we go. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to sign up at Margex. Helps me out tremendously. And by the way, if you like this type of content, we're going to keep doing it for a while. We're going to keep doing trading content every day. We're going to set positions. I will start on some 30-minute charts. We'll start looking at it, and we'll start looking for what our low time frame entry positions are. And if you guys like this and you sign up at Margex, Margex will probably sponsor some more videos, and maybe they'll become the sponsor of this show every single day. And if that happens, that'll be fantastic because it helps me out tremendously. And if I help you out tremendously with these positions and you make a bunch of money, the least you could do is sign up at Margex and start trading today. If not, oh well. It's not financial advice, but I'm always right. You guys have a good day, and we'll see you at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time in the morning for the Believes Crypto.
I'm looking for the good life, sitting on top of the world. I wanna be shining like